Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ham, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios in Morristown, New Jersey. We're not talking a real estate topic today per se. We're talking about a city in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. And we have a great panelist, one panelist actually, and he's actually our first ever repeat guest on the Morning Spotlight podcast portion. He's a partner at Murphy, Schiller, and Wilkes in Newark, New Jersey. Chris Murphy. Chris, welcome back.
Mike, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be the first ever guest invited back. I know it's been tough for you to find people. I'm kidding. It's great to be back.
Shots fired right out of the gate.
No.
If there was any person that I would have back for a second round right away, it would be you. And you got your mug ready to go. I got my mug ready to go. It's the Morning Spotlight mug for people that are listening on audio. And you can go to themorningspotlight.com to the store and get yourself a mug.
And I got the shirt, and my wife already stole it. She stole it last night, so I have to order a new one.
Yeah, I'll have to get you another one. All right. So you are our only guest talking about Newark, which obviously has a lot of stuff to talk about. So I know you. I've known you for a while, and I know that you're an expert on the city and everything like that. But maybe for the people that don't know you as well as I do, let's establish some credibility. So why would someone listen to you when we're talking about Newark?
Sure. Well, yes. We met in Newark.
That's true. We did.
We met at a table at Forno's.
Yep.
In the Ironbound. We had a great lunch there, and we met. That was years ago. But we, listen. Our firm is based in Newark. Just so everybody knows, the law firm Murphy, Schiller, and Wilkes. We focus solely on commercial real estate and development matters. So we handle all aspects of commercial real estate and development, from transactions, environmental, litigation. I lead our firm's land use, zoning, and redevelopment practice. While we do projects throughout the entire state, especially on the land use side, I have a very, I focus primarily on Newark, projects located in the city of Newark. We've been here since the firm was founded. I actually lived in Newark prior to getting married and moving out to Westfield. This is a great city, and we're true believers in it. We think that there's some great times ahead for Newark, even in light of the current crisis. But we've done major projects here. We've done what I think is the most transformational project in the city of Newark, which is being developed by J&L companies. It's 403 residential units, market rate residential units at Newark Penn Station. Project's called 55 Union. It's between McWhorter and Union Streets. We've also done the approvals for the Griffith Building, which is an historic building in downtown Newark. We did an 80-unit project there. In the process of doing a 120,000 square foot warehouse project in the North Ward. So we're like I said, we're very active here in the city of Newark, on both the transactional side, on the land use side, and every aspect of development.
Great. Yeah. So I think that's great. So everybody listening, Chris knows what he's talking about. So now we can continue. So why is Newark? So in my opinion, I feel like Newark has been like the up and coming place in New Jersey for, I don't know how long, but it feels like a long time.
Sure.
And so what makes it attractive to potential investors, companies bringing their headquarters to Newark?
Sure.
What does the city have to offer that people should be looking at?
Sure. So we always say the city of tomorrow since 1967. It's but in fairness to Newark, it's listen. There's been different iterations of its success and of its growth. The one we're currently in, I think, is the probably the most impactful and one of the ones that's going to be the most lasting. Newark is New Jersey's largest city. Right behind it is Jersey City, but currently is the state's largest city. It has over 280,000 people. It's truly a transit hub. You're looking at an 18-minute train ride from downtown Newark to New York Penn Station. We have the New Jersey Path train. We have Amtrak. It's a port city. We also have an international airport. You have major companies here. A lot of people don't know, but Panasonic's U.S. headquarters is here in Newark. Prudential's headquarters is here in Newark. Audible's headquarters is here in Newark. There's a significant amount of big business and big jobs here in the city of Newark. And, we've seen it. We've seen, again, this conversation has kind of changed because 6 months ago, people were saying the suburbs were dead and no one's ever going to be in the suburban office park again. And now you're hearing people say people are fleeing the cities and they're going to be out in the suburbs. I am a bit skeptical of that argument, especially in the long term. Possibly in the short term, there is some effect on cities and on companies being located in cities. But I think in the long term, people are going to be back in walkable downtowns like a city like Newark. Cities, as we know, spur growth, they spur innovation, all the things that you would want as a major company. So you've seen a lot of growth here in Newark over the past 10 years. I think we're in a little bit of an odd time here. It's a little bit irregular, and I think while I think the fear is rational that people don't want to be in close proximity to each other and people want to be working from home, I think that people are making some decisions based on a specific period of time, which we will eventually get through. And in my opinion, people will be back in cities like Newark and of course, Manhattan.
Right. And even though, so before I get into some of my next questions, just one of the things you said. So, obviously like a city like Manhattan, I agree. Like, I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's New York City, right? Like it's here to stay, and it has like that built-in reputation of just being the spot, right? Yep. But is Newark going to hurt more from this pandemic more than a city like that? Because they still were like on the path to getting to that point. Like there's a stunt to growth.
The question is, were we not far enough along where,
right.
You're going to feel this worse? New York has a history way longer than, Newark, but it's a fair question. I think that whilst that may be true, there are also other factors that could, skew positively to a city like Newark. Things like, companies looking to do satellite offices in New Jersey because more people have possibly moved out to the suburbs. Doesn't mean the companies necessarily have to be out in the suburbs, but right. It's easier to get to Newark from, Basking Ridge than it is to get to Manhattan. So companies possibly looking at satellite or headquarters relocations to a city like Newark, I think is certainly possible. Listen, Newark's moving quickly towards growth and is doing a great job, I think, with the leadership of the current mayor. Is it set back by this? Probably a little bit. Will it come through? I think so. I just think that the city like Newark has the bones to be a great city, and I think is a great city, but it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think that this pandemic has destroyed its chances of
right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I just, I needed to pressure you a little bit.
Sure.
And you held up pretty good.
I need a new cup. I need a new cup here.
All right. So, obviously one of the big things that really kind of put Newark on the map for people that didn't really know what was happening in the city was the whole Amazon HQ2 process and Newark making the top 20 list, right?
Yeah.
So obviously that's the big one, and that really drew a lot of attention to Newark. So, but can you take us through some other maybe like key moments that were
Sure.
kind of showed that it was progressing in the right direction?
Sure. So a few things. I think people say all the time, that Newark was in the top 20, but they didn't make it. They didn't win the day. I will tell you, as someone who does a lot, because along with the land use and redevelopment practice, I lead our incentive advisory practice, and a large portion of that practice is helping companies that are looking to relocate corporate headquarters or satellite offices take advantage of some state incentives. And during the time of Amazon, it was a big part of the package that was put together by the state of New Jersey and the city of Newark, was a massive tax credit package to lure the company here. And I would just say that as soon as Newark was listed on that top 20 list, it gave it credibility because it was able to say, we are in the top 20 of the cities throughout the country that Amazon is looking to potentially put this HQ2 location. I was getting calls from other corporate site selectors that were saying, tell us about Newark. We didn't even know that this city really was a contender. That was huge. So even though the city didn't get Amazon, it does have Audible, which is, an affiliate of a subsidiary of Amazon.
Right.
It does have Audible's headquarters here, and they continue to grow here. that was a huge step in the right direction for the city of Newark. And there's been others. I mean, I tell people all the time, we're doing massive projects here in the city of Newark, both residential, industrial, and other asset classes. These aren't people that are just feel good about Newark because they feel it's a good story and they want to be part of something. They want to be part of that good story. I mean, these are people from New York City and throughout the country and foreign investors who look at a city like Newark and think I can make money here because it's an up and coming city. I mean, the people are, that to me is the most telling thing. When a New York City based developer is now saying, I want to put up a 400 unit or a 500 unit residential building in the city of Newark, that to me is a big deal because they're underwriting those deals and they understand the fundamentals and they understand that they can make money in a city like Newark because there's a lot of growth potential here.
Right. And the talent pool, I mean, is tremendous because you have, like Rutgers, Newark.
Because I'm sitting here and you have lunch here every now and then.
Exactly. Yeah. The talent pool is fantastic, but I mean, that would be something that I would think would attract, companies here too. Sure. Is just, like you have just a lot of people, whether it's tech, whatever, sure. A lot, like a big pool to draw from for potential employees, right?
Right. Well, so you have the universities, obviously, you have Rutgers, you have NJIT, and you have New York City, and you have everything that surrounds Newark, which is incredible levels of talent and talent pools that companies, whether it's a manufacturing company, quite frankly, or a high-tech company looking to hire people. New Jersey has the talent. That's definitely one thing that we have going for us, and especially North Jersey in the Newark area. We certainly have the talent.
Yeah, I agree. So you mentioned some stuff about the incentives. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. So do you see the state taking a proactive approach to kind of help push Newark forward, whether it's from, sure. I know opportunity zones are not necessarily like state specific, but opportunity zones, different incentive packages for companies. Sure. I know there was some stuff going on with the EDA and what they were going to be doing with their incentives under Governor Murphy and all that. So kind of where do you see the state looking at Newark right now? Or how do you see the state looking at Newark?
That's a great question. So the state had two incentive programs. The first was called Grow New Jersey, which was a corporate business attraction and retention program. The second was a program called the Economic Redevelopment and Growth Grant Program. That was solely for developers. It was a gap financing tool to help development projects, mostly in urban areas. Both expired under an act called the Economic Opportunity Act of 2013, expired in 2018, July of 2018. And since then, there have been no programs. The governor and the legislature were negotiating a new package of deals. It was taking a very long time, and then COVID happened. We thought that we were kind of to a point where there was going to be some incentive going forward. I will tell you that there needs to be some level of state incentives for major companies to consider cities like Newark. Every state has tax credit incentives or cash grant incentives for companies relocating and creating jobs. New York City, if I was to move a Fortune 500 company to Lower Manhattan or one of the outer boroughs, I would get a minimum of $3,000 per job per year for 12 years. New Jersey, during 2013 to 2018, had a great program in Grow New Jersey. Was very competitive, more competitive than that program, and it really helped bring companies to the state of New Jersey. So we did deals for Spanish Broadcasting Systems, for Credibility Capital. We didn't work on this, but Broadridge moved to Newark with the help of a Grow New Jersey incentive. The state needs to have something. It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be a huge program. It just needs to be something where the state can compete with other states. Essentially what we've done is unilaterally disarm ourselves in the fight for companies. I think the governor understands that, the legislature understands that, and I think they're going to work on something. Obviously, the past 6 months have been, there's been some other pressing issues that they've been dealing with.
A couple, for sure.
Just a few.
Yeah. I want to talk maybe less like higher level, very serious type stuff about Newark. So I know you love Newark, and I want to know why you love Newark, Because I mean, like I talk to people that are, whether they're my parents' age or older, and they always have like Newark has that stigma, right? Because they watched, the 60s and all
Sure.
that. So they kind of had a feeling of what Newark's all about. But I come to Newark all the time, whether it's to see you or other people or whatever. I love it. I mean, I'll go to a Devils game, I'll go to whatever. So I love the passion that you have for the city. So I just want that to kind of come through.
Sure. Again, I love Newark. It's a great city. I mean, it has diversity, it has culture, it has food, it has history, it has everything, in my opinion, that you would want. It's a growing city that has become more institutionalized over the years, but it still has pockets of pure Newark, New Jersey. So I lived in the East Ward, which is the ironbound section of Newark when I lived here. I used to say to people all the time, I could go to a dinner at 3 a.m. and get a lobster and, yellow rice and chips. And it was dangerous in that sense. But just, the food and the culture in the ironbound are unbelievable. And throughout the entire city, it's still a place where, and you know this because you've been to our holiday party, which I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen this year due to, some issues, but, the current global crisis.
Right.
But, our holiday party is in a speakeasy in a house, in the city of Newark.
Fantastic.
And, people walk in and they're like, where the hell am I? And you walk into, a speakeasy with, smoke and the bar and the whole scene. You wouldn't find that in any other city in New Jersey. I would venture to say it'd be hard to find anywhere, quite frankly. Yeah. It's not one of these, New York City, corporate speakeasies. It's like a real speakeasy. Yeah. It's like, so you just wouldn't find that anywhere else. And that's why I love Newark, because it still has that flavor. I guess that's the right term. It has flavor.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good way to describe it. A lot of flavor. So, all right. So before we move into our closing segment, because we're getting close to wrapping this up. So I know you've talked about a couple things, whether it's the incentive packages or whatever, but what do you think are some things that need to happen so that Newark continues on this path forward? So I know, like, you mentioned the mayor and how you appreciate his leadership and he's doing a great job, and the incentives things need to come through, but is there anything else that needs to happen to kind of like make sure that Newark keeps moving forward?
Yeah, listen, I think, first of all, I think we need to get this, pandemic under control.
Yeah. For a lot of reasons. Yeah, I got to get out of this apartment.
But I think that's, obviously an underlying concern for everybody looking at coming back to work in cities. I think people are going to come back to work in cities. I think there's been leadership at the local level in that regard, and even at the state level. I think that, the incentives, I know we touched on it, but that is a big piece. I mean, in order to attract companies, companies need to be enticed. And I think incentives are one tool in a larger economic toolkit that can be used to attract companies here, to retain companies. And then lastly, I think, once we get this pandemic under control, and I say we, as a country and as a state, people have to come back, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I think there needs to be leadership. I'm not the genius who came up with this, but I was watching CNBC and there was some hedge fund billionaire that was saying, the people, how does New York City become New York City again? And it's like the CEOs have to leave the Hamptons and come back to the city, yeah. At a certain time when they feel safe and when, we can do this in an organized, safe way. And the same thing has to happen for Newark. I mean, eventually when things get under control, companies need to lead and they need to come back to the city. And they need to, they need to patronize the stores. They need to go sit outside at the restaurants. And they need to do the things that are going to help businesses stay alive in the city.
Absolutely. All right. So closing segment. Now, you've done this before, and I liked your answer the last time, but I'm not going to let you use it this time because you said that Mike Ham is the future of real estate radio.
Mike Ham is the future of real estate radio.
We are well on our way. So we're going to put you under the spotlight. So the people that are listening, we talked about Newark for the last 25 minutes. I want you to leave them with either a prediction about Newark or one thought on Newark that, you think would be important for them to walk away from this episode with. So you're under the spotlight. What do you got?
So I think my prediction is that in 10 years, Newark is going to be considered a great city in this country. I think personally it already is, but I think it's going to be considered universally a great city throughout the country. I think it's going to have a massive amount of growth, both from a residential side and, on the corporate side. But I still think that it's going to maintain its flavor, which I think is the most important thing. And I think that, that's the perfect word for a city like Newark. It has flavor. It is an incredibly diverse and energetic place. And I would just, encourage everybody to, if people are feeling safe enough to go sit outside at a restaurant, I would encourage people to go into the Ironbound and have a meal and, watch the people and, see how great it is here, even in light of what's currently going on. And please wear your mask because, the mayor's been pushing that, which he should be, before you sit down. Once you sit down, you can take it off. But it's a great city. And I was saying this before the pandemic, the people that come in just for the Devils games and then leave, they have one vision of what this city is. Don't do that. Come in, have a meal, find a speakeasy where you can smoke a cigar, go to the Devil game, and then go home.
Yeah.
You'll have a great experience.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big Newark fan and really hadn't really gone that much until, honestly, I started hanging out with you. So, so that is going to wrap up our show. Nice and quick, nice and tight about Newark. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to make sure that I put your contact information in the show notes so that for everybody listening, if you do want to reach out to Chris, make sure you do that. If you want to be a guest on the Morning Spotlight, if you want to hear us talk about a specific topic, email us at themorningspotlight@gmail.com or go to our website, themorningspotlight.com. Chris, thanks for coming on with us again today.
Mike, thanks so much.
Absolutely. And everybody else, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.